This is a backdoor. This is a real backdoor. I know that a lot of people, and I'm sorry, I know some of you guys get mad when we like focus on the 10 people who cause trouble instead of the 9,000 of you guys that are totally chill and sane. But there's always those alarmists out there who are like, oh my God, it's got telemetry, it's spyware. Oh my God, it's got a bug, it's a backdoor. Like, they just assume malice in everything.
Is it really that unfair of an assumption? Companies, especially big tech, have been scooping up user data for the last decade and profiting from it. You're splitting hairs over the definition of spyware and backdoors instead of focusing on the story. You and Henry have both covered countless times where users were being spied on. But of course you'd rather miss the point entirely, just so you can feed your YouTuber ego.
And 99% of the time, that's not the case. 99% of the time, it's we just want to understand how users are using the software. We want, there was a bug that was found. And I understand if you're against telemetry, well, to an extent. I understand if you're against that. That's not what I'm talking about. My point is it's not malicious. This one's actually malicious. This is what a real backdoor looks like.
Seriously? So when users can't opt out of telemetry, or it's collected without the user's knowledge, that shouldn't be considered malicious? You're really going to sit there and bullshit your audience, despite covering this stuff for the last few years.
To this day, I still haven't opted out because I don't know if I'm going to lose warranty on my car if I opt out. This is a $60,000 car that I'm not being guaranteed will have warranty if something goes wrong with it because I opt out of over-the-air functions of the vehicle. Pretty much your car collects, I would say, just about everything you could think it could collect. The speed you're going, where you're going. Like some cars can even tell, like, information about the driver as well, depending on the kind of sensors and what kind of data is collected by the car. If cars have cameras, it could also record video and things like that. And so what you're going to have to do is every specific car manufacturer is more or less collecting similar data. What you need to do is you need to go and do the basics that we always recommend. So make sure everything stays up to date for basic security, but it's on the privacy front, make sure that you are at least aliasing some information on your accounts when you can, enable two-factor if your car accounts or anything has that, and then try to opt out of any options that are given to you. This is just a very new field, and it's very hard for us to make sense of this whole information. So reach out to your car manufacturers and tell them, that you want to request your data or possibly delete data or modify data, or you want to opt out of any services on the car, etc. I think that's going to be your best bet right now outside of any superficial opt-outs within your cars. Yeah, next question is from Frank, and it's, hey, it looks like I'll be renewing my TV and home entertainment system next year. I started browsing to see what the options are. I think I'm going to go with a screen and a soundbar. Looks like it's hard to find devices that don't have cameras and microphones for voice assistants. So I'm thinking about how to block their traffic. Do you have any advice on how best to do this in a practical way? This is going to vary a little bit, though, because some TVs and some entertainment systems will combine a lot of the telemetrics and things like that with actual domains that are required for the TV to work. So it really depends on the TV and how much they separate their domains so you can actually pick and choose what you want to be submitted granularly.
Target had a few Vizio TVs that the voice assistant is in the remote. And I know our smart TV offers that. We don't have one of those remotes, but same thing with it. Now I'm looking at TVs on Walmart and same thing. So like, dude, they're out there, but they're hard to find for sure. It seems like a lot of them are now coming with stuff.
Last thing to touch on here, if you use NextDNS, they have native tracking block lists for the Roku as well. So if you like the Roku approach or the Apple approach, because it also supports tvOS, there's actually just built-in block lists for those devices to prevent the tracking that's done on those devices. So yeah, if you have NextDNS, just go into your privacy tab and there's native tracking and you'll see a Roku option down there, which is pretty neat. And you just have to see how the microphone connects to the motherboard, and you just have to disconnect that. Again, it's something that I'm not going to recommend just willy-nilly to everybody to do, and keep in mind you're going to risk, losing warranty and maybe losing the remote. But if it's just in the remote, it's not that risky. You can just buy a new remote.
To be fair, I've heard, I don't know how true this is, but I've heard there are some TVs that will automatically scan for any open network. So depending on your living situation, like if you live in an apartment and your neighbor for whatever reason in 2024 doesn't lock their Wi-Fi, then it'll just hop on that and start transmitting.
Right.
If that isn't gaslighting, it's pretty damn close. If anyone has access to your devices and data without your express permission, it is malicious. Period.
You know, like Henry and I went on a rant a couple of weeks ago or a couple months ago about Pegasus. And again, telemetry. Every connection is spyware. Well, it undermines actual spyware like Pegasus.
It doesn't undermine spyware at all. If anything, your whiny little rant is downplaying the invasive data collection practices that people are more likely to be impacted by. But of course, that wouldn't be anything new for you and Henry. Especially when you unironically recommend Apple products for privacy and straight up deny the threat of ultrasonic cross-device tracking.
Apple is tracking you even when its own privacy settings say it's not, new research says. The App Store appeared to harvest information about every single thing you did in real time, including what you tapped on, which apps you searched for, what ads you saw, and how long you looked at a given app, and how you found it. The app sent details about you and your device as well, including ID numbers, what kind of phone you're using, your screen resolution, your keyboard languages, how you're connected to the internet, notably the kind of information commonly used for device fingerprinting. Now here's the kicker. Opting out or switching the personalization options off did not reduce the amount of detailed analytics that the app was sending. This research was done by MISC, and that's what MISC said. MISC also said they switched off all possible options, namely personalized ads, personalized recommendations, and sharing usage data and analytics. With all of this said, and before you throw your iPhone out the window, I like to add perspective on this. It's been found in other research articles that even first-party data collection is collected less on iPhones than Android devices, so I wouldn't be pushing people away from iPhones for this reason alone, unless they're able to move to some kind of open source custom ROM or some other alternative, because frankly, Google is still a lot more invasive than Apple on an operating system level, and it comes with less aggressive stances towards third parties accessing your data. So I would argue out of the box, iPhone versus stock Android, it's still a downgrade if you move to an Android device. I'm still going to always recommend an Apple iDevice over like any Android device to most people in my life. It's just generally going to be better for privacy and security for them, from what I've done and what I've researched.
The marketing company claims that it actually is listening to your phone and smart speakers to target ads. Now, a quick piece of context for those who don't know, who may be new here. Up until now, there is actually no evidence that phones do that. It's a rumor that keeps going around, and they even say this in the article, because targeted advertising has become so freaking good that it's almost like it's reading your mind.
And also, like on that note, some people have actually tried to analyze and do legitimate research. It's not just a speculation. People have done actual research trying to prove that phones collect microphone data when you don't know about them, and it uses it for targeting, and there's just no evidence for it. We don't have the evidence for it.
Anyways, getting back on topic, up till now, no evidence, but now we have this new company. So this is a marketing team with Cox Media Group who claims that it has the ability to listen to ambient conversations of consumers through the embedded microphones in smartphones, smart TVs, and other devices to gather data and use it to target ads. They call it active listening, and they claim that the capability can identify potential customers based on casual conversations in real time. According to 404 Media, it is not immediately clear if the capability CMG is advertising and claims works is being used on devices in the market today, but the company notes, quote, a marketing technique fit for the future available today, unquote. 404 also found a representative of the company on LinkedIn explicitly asking people who are interested to contact them about the product. One marketing professional pitched by CMG on the text said a CMG representative explained the prices of the service to them, which I don't think the article linked. The website says, what would it mean for your business if you could target potential clients who are actively discussing their need for your services in their day-to-day conversations? No, it's not a Black Mirror episode. It's voice data, and CMG has the capabilities to use it to your business advantage, unquote. Clients can claim a territory where they want to use CMG services, which are available in a 10 or 20 mile radius, according to the website. After setup, quote, active listening begins and is analyzed via AI to detect pertinent conversations via smartphones, smart TVs, and other devices, unquote. CMG also claims that it installs a tracking pixel on its client's website to monitor the return on investment. With an audience created, CMG then delivers adverts to people through streaming TV, streaming audio, display ads, YouTube, and Google and Bing search, the website says. Neither CMG nor Cox Communications responded to a request for comment. 404 outlines several ways they attempted to get a hold of these people, and in none of these instances were they successful in getting someone to respond and answer questions. So, like the article said, we don't know if this is currently on the market or if this is something that's like coming soon. I know you have thoughts on this one.
I don't have many thoughts. I'll just share along my theory here, which is I don't think they actually have this capability for smartphones. I think that their marketing is very clever because we see this a lot with
kind of misleading services that claim to be able to do massive surveillance. And then when you actually get into the nitty gritty, it makes sense how they do it, but it is a little bit of hype and a little bit of extra marketing. I just don't know what technological way they would be able to accomplish this, because smartphones aren't designed in a way where the microphone can just be turned on in the background.
And now that you say that out loud, that does, now that I'm kind of thinking about it a little more, I think you're right. Because number one, I mean, not to be difficult and pedantic, but the microphone could be turned on in the background, but that's usually like a really advanced spyware capability. Like Pegasus or something like that. And number two, that begs the question of how are they turning on and accessing the microphone in the first place? Like, is that a feature they can inject into an app? But even then, if they're going to do that, like you said, like the app has to request microphone permissions.
Apps on your phone can listen for approximate audio beacons to track what you do and see. This method of tracking is usually completely permissionless and secret. You won't receive any notifications, and oftentimes you'll never know what apps on your phone or websites you visit have ultrasonic beacons or receivers in them.
Same thing here. This is an actual backdoor. This is what a backdoor really looks like. This was maliciously inserted after years of planning, and the whole purpose was to intentionally break connections and steal data from users.
So according to Nate's logic, it's only spyware when an individual or group steals your data. When a company tracks users and their activities, especially without their knowledge, it suddenly doesn't count. It's amazingly sad that anyone would pay you guys on Patreon for your nonsensical opinions in the extended version. Hell, this is the free version, and I feel like I've been ripped off.